please feel free to go ahead and put your questions, if you were to have any, in there, because both me and my panelists, my dear friends, this is Diana, Adair, and Donna McMurtry, and they are sisters. They are BQH practitioners, authors, and healers who live in Colorado. They partner together. They do amazing work, and they will be the presenters mostly today, and they have the answers to many questions. Okay, we've got a lot of people in here already. You want to say hello, ladies?
Hi, I'm Donna. I'm Diana.
Okay.
We are so
All right.
excited to be here and have this conversation. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it, Candace?
Boy, we've been talking about this for a while, and like I said, I'm as curious as anyone else, because it is nothing I know anything about, and I'm looking forward to seeing what is to be learned today. Okay, so, but what we're going to do first, we're going to start off with just a few announcements. And the first announcement I want to mention is that there's going to be a survey question presented to attendees. And that survey question, the way I understand how it works, is as soon as we click off the webinar, that survey question will come up. But it's also going to come up in an email for you afterwards, sort of an acknowledgement email if you attended, and I think maybe even an email if you happen to have missed the webinar or click off early. That survey is simply going to ask a question of, hey, if we're going to do another webinar, is there any topics you would be interested in seeing quantumhealers.com bring as a webinar and kind of a basic information source to you? So that will be the question. And I would so love for you to participate and fill that survey out, because it gives us an idea of what people are interested in. Okay. And you can feel free to talk about that amongst yourselves, or even in chat, or anything else if you want to early. No problem at all. So just a few quick announcements. Number one, we were just being all excited about this before I clicked on start the webinar. We're talking about the immersion class coming up this year here in Kansas, right here in this house. And we have a space for 10 people, 10 BQH trained people. There's still time to take the class if you haven't even taken the class, but we have 10 seats open. 7 of them are gone. And I there's probably 10 or 12 people who are like, yeah, I'm coming, but until they hit that button, there are still 3 seats open. And we have truly an amazing assortment of people coming, all the way from brand new people to wonderful experienced practitioners who are looking forward to getting together again. And it always is magical, isn't it, ladies? How it works out, how the people show up, the right group.
Yes. So we'll both be there, and we love, love, love immersion.
Okay.
We have such a different group every time. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn so much. You know, I've made friends from all over through class, and, you know, I'll talk about that more when I get into the journey of how we came to talk about plant medicine in conjunction with it. But, you know, the immersion class is a big part of it for me. And they're so intimately tied into where I've been led ever since I started coming, Candace, in 2020.
Crazy. And, you know, it's just so darn comfortable, right?
Yeah.
When you go to these classes and they're in hotels and stuff like that, there's sort of a clinical kind of, I don't know, there's, you know, a sanitized version of food and space and air and light and all that. And that's not here, man. Here is everything wonderful and organic and warm, and blankets and pillows and comfortable. And it's just a lot of fun. Anyway, we've got 3 seats open for that, May 31st to June 5th. Okay. So you can head over to quantumhealers.com for more information there. You can look at our courses page. Okay. Speaking of courses page, if you have not ever heard of Quantum Connect, You can read about that over on our courses page. What is Quantum Connect? Well, it's an open-eyed connection with your ever-present higher self. It's a standalone modality, but it's also a tool. It's stuff that quantum healers have kind of intuitively helped clients prepare for traditional quantum healing sessions, but it's kind of compact and presented in a way that people who either aren't interested in the idea of a trance or are not willing to give up the control to have that kind of experience. It just kind of goes along with everything that we do in the quantum healing world, but with no closing of the eyes, relaxing and deepening and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a different approach, and it's a fantastic tool. Take a look at Quantum Connect. And although nothing's there quite yet, I'm deep in creating some micro classes for a lot of different things. Current subjects, the one that I just recorded today was, how many of you all have had clients who don't speak words in sessions or do something else strange? Well, I have an entire little class about that now, because the longer you do this work, the longer it becomes possible, or the more possible it becomes, I guess I should say, that you're going to run into all kinds of different things happen in sessions. And one that can really throw you is when words are not spoken by your client. And I went there with this class. Another one that I'm getting ready to record next is about dreams and how dreams, and this is crazy. Girls, I was talking to you about the time travel doctor, that whole thing that happened just this last weekend. Do you know that 3 of us, because they were partners Saturday, Sunday, and then all 3 of us have time traveled in our dreams since we had that session together, which is just so mind blowing. I can't even tell you. And I mean, time travel dreams. Actually, just consciousness is expanding in the most amazing way. I'm going to be focusing on that in a micro class. Okay. Also, the girls and I were talking about BQH and how cutting edge it seems to be with what's happening with the new human and the upgrade that we are having on the planet now. Something about moving into this age of Aquarius truly is upgrading. There's new upgrades in our physiology. There's new upgrades with our relationship with water, and there's new upgrades with our heart and mind coherence, which we're still going to do that here after the announcements. We are going to take a moment, and thank you all so much for showing up. We're going to take a moment, all of us together, and connect our minds and hearts here in one moment after these announcements. And that is Oh, just one more thing. I am actually offering a new service of in-depth dream analysis. No appointment necessary. It's fill it out, a form, and I do a dream analysis. I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And that's available on my own personal website or through my listing on quantumhealers.com, but CandiceCraw-Goldman.com as well. And ladies, give your website before we move on to heart-mind coherence together. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, we the forum, I mean not the forum, the directory at quantumhealers.com, our pages, Diana Adair, Adair, and then Donna McMurtry, McMurtry, is the best way for anything quantum healing related. Now, for our authors, our books and stuff like that, our author name is D.D. Adair, Adair. So you can go to ddadair.com, and
there is links in there to our quantum healing services, including our surrogate services. Yeah. And then our email is, just for direct questions, and I'll say it again at the end, but anything that you guys have that comes up after this conversation today is ddadair, 2 @gmail.com.
Yep, and the longer you get to know them, pretty soon you'll just call them D&D like we do everything else.
Interchangeable. Nobody really knows who Donna is, who Diana is. Like
everyone knows. Okay, all right. So let's change the speed here. Yeah. So just take a moment, everybody, and we're going to bring our hearts and minds into coherence. So you might want to put your hand over your heart. And we're going to take maybe 3 deep cleansing breaths. And let's try to do them in sync. So 1 in and out. And in. And out. Focus on your heart as we take this 3rd breath. And out. We find that this brings our hearts and our minds into coherence, not only individually, but with the group and whoever's in front of you. And I truly believe that it actually helps our heartbeat synchronize. So, welcome everyone. Kenny Baker's in the house. Hi, Kenny. Kenny's made some noises about coming to immersion, but I don't know if he's showing up or not. I sure would like to finally hug that man in person.
Yes, Kenny.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be old home week. It's going to be so great. Okay. So we are 13 minutes into our time together. Diana's going to take the lead here and begin to have a presentation, but she's invited me to sort of pop in and ask any clarifying questions, but then we're going to go through the questions. And I know that both Donna and Diana, you guys can see the questions too, as well. So you can, right, you can see those?
I love
Are you seeing those?
Q&A. Here we go.
Yes, because so we have 7 in queue right now, and you can decide which, if any, you would like to answer, and we can do that in a number of different ways, but you can just click that, answer live. I'm going to answer that or something. And if somebody asks a question, you're not don't want to answer right away or put it at the bottom of the list, you can just leave it sitting there, and we will, we'll capture those for possible future answers. Okay. So how did you guys get into this, and how does it connect to BQH?
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I'm just loving seeing the names pop up and the hellos from all over. It looks like we've got a lot of different states and even countries represented here. That's just amazing. Thank you for bringing your hearts and your questions and your interest, and your hopes and your fears and everything else, because it all belongs here. And Candace, thank you so much for letting us have this conversation today, because as you know, it has become a big part of my life for sure, Donna's as well, although it's been really the mushrooms found me. I'll talk about more of that later. And I'm looking at all your questions here. And so from what I'm seeing, I think what I'm going to do is just go through and share what I am led to share with you guys first. I think we'll answer a lot of these questions. And then after that, we'll go through the questions and make sure that those are all answered if I don't during my talk. So how did we get here? I wanted to give just a little bit of history on how we came to have this conversation today. And I started my journey in the quantum healing world in 2015 with QHHT. Donna and I went through that together and started, we did the online class with Dolores, which was amazing. And then when Candace launched BQH in 2018, Donna was one of her first prototype beta testers for the course. And she's like, hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to meet this woman, Candace. Like, and I was like, I do. So we went through it again together when it was officially launched. And then synchronously, as it happens, we met Candace at the end of 2019 at this amazing goddess retreat that she invited us to be guests to for her. And that same year, people started asking me, so I've been facilitating quantum healing journeys for 4 years at that time. And I had come out of the healing world already, body work and cranial sacral therapy and energy work and lymph and all these other things. And so when BQH came along, I was like, what? I can do all of this with it? Yeah. So it was already giving me permission to be hands-on. If they need to do breath work, do that. Follow wherever it goes. If they need me to hold somewhere or move energy, I can do that. And through that, those two things together, I started having people ask me, well, do you facilitate medicine journeys? Do you work with mushrooms or anything? And I was like, well, no, but I'm sure, let's try it. And so that's kind of where it began. And I was like, this is very interesting, because people would go into these spaces where it was very similar to the spaces that we go into with the quantum realm. And at the same time, because I don't do anything for anybody else that I haven't done myself, I started to have my own experimentation with it, journeys with it. I had played around with mushrooms in my 20s recreationally, and that was my only experience with it. And then I didn't have a relationship with them or any other plant medicine for 20 years. So it was very interesting. At the same time, and I'll talk about legalities and all of that too, but it was around that same time in 2018 that the FDA gave psilocybin the breakthrough therapy designation, which I will go into more because that's really important. And that's what started the journey to legalization for psilocybin. Also MDMA, which is coming along closely behind. 2018, yes.
Right when BQH was.
Right when BQH was coming on. I know, Candace, it was crazy. I started looking up some of the dates for this stuff. Yeah. So that happened. And so once that happened, then the president also at the same time signed the Right to Try Act, which was to allow terminally ill patients to use psychedelics for treatment. So that's when the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins and different universities started to do research. That's when you started seeing all of the microdosing come onto the mainstream. That was really where mushrooms started to be reintroduced into us. Our awareness was through the microdosing and finding that it was helping with depression. And we'll go into all that too. I'll get back to that. But that's part of the picture and the timeline. And that was all happening unbeknownst to me at the time as it was coming into my field. And so at the end of 2019, I was invited to go to, and this is the crazy thing, all of it's been invitations, that I don't seek out. I was invited to do a facilitator training course with a group of psychologists, and for plant medicine, specifically mushrooms. And so I was like, yeah, I should probably do that. So I went to the course, and it was an 8-week course. We met once a week it was about a 4 to 5 hours, pretty in depth. It was all psychologists, psychotherapists, other types of therapists, and me. And what I found was that the teacher, who was wonderful, she did have a history in shamanic practices. She was more like a shamanic practitioner. She wasn't a psychotherapist, and she had been called to that and working with it as a microdose coach for a while. And what I found in that class is I knew more and had done more because of BQH than anybody there. And so I had more to add than to take away. But that was a huge aha for me. It was like, oh, it really is the same space. And that also connected with the world of psychology, and therapists and doctors started to come to me to have BQH experiences as well as to work with the mushrooms. And at that time, I was not combining them. It was, two separate fields. And there was, the common way to work with it is a regular dose journey, which is a higher dose. We'll talk about dosage as well, which is usually 3.5 grams, or, a hero's journey, which is 5 grams. And so it was probably, a couple more years before my other sister, Freddie, who is a psychiatrist and a doctor, had said, hey, and she's also a BQH practitioner. She's come to BQH classes. She combines, the two worlds very well. And she's, was actually the one that was like, hey, we should try doing BQH with low dose mushrooms. And so Donna and I were like, yes, we should. And, you know, Donna has been part of this as well. She's had her own experiences. She just had shoulder surgery, so she's a little out of it today and letting me take the lead on this. Let's go this way, sir. Okay. She's telling me she's also my tech guru because I'm not techy at all. Your chair. Oh, is that better? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, my tech guru. So during those times from 2019, 2020, 2021, I had been trying, you know, various doses myself. And I had been holding space for and facilitating people anywhere from 1 grams up to 10. So there is a lot of difference in the amount you take. I will say that. And they all have value. And that's been one of the things that's really led me to promote, I guess you could say, and offer the combination, because through my experience, I've found that using the low dose, which is 1 to 2 gram, usually with the BQH format, is where the experience is embodied. You know, if you have, for anybody that's out there, you know, that's watching this, that's had your own journeys, you know, it takes you out into the quantum realm, into other lives, into other experiences. You connect with beings and nature and other planets and all the things we do, just like BQH sessions. The thing about the mushrooms is the more you take, the further out you go. And it is sometimes hard to bring that back in and apply it to our lives. And the thing I really noticed working with these clients is that with the lower dose using the BQH format, it was much more embodied. They were having that experience out there and being here at the same time. And the format of the power of the question, drawing the power of the answer, or those energies connecting, was helping them to retain a lot more of it. So I said, you know, there's really something here. And my first questions when we first started combining these in 2021 was, you know, how best to work with the mushrooms and what's the best way to combine these, and just asking them questions, because as we've learned through BQH, you know, you can ask anything or anyone a question, whether it's your liver or a blade of grass or the water or the sun or a bean or your own heart. So the mushrooms have been my teachers, and they told me that they were sending people to me because of my experience with BQH and QHHT, as well as all of the work that I do and continue to do on myself. Because it, you know, we can only go as far as we go, holding space and offering help to other people. So they've been training me. And that very first fusion session that we did, that my sister led me through, I went right into the creation space. And those of you who have had mushroom journeys will probably recognize this. A lot of people see it as cartoon world, where you go into this place with all these colors and things bouncing around and they look kind of cartoony, and, you know, they might turn into symbols or just be colors. And Candace, you're probably saying, yeah, that's also familiar from BQH sessions, right?
Absolutely.
And you'll feel
because, I mean, I'm sitting here actually very excited that you're saying this, because some people who don't have any mushrooms at all, who have that, come up and they're like, then their instant human reaction is to discount what just happened to them. And everything you've just said helps to make them think they should not do that. Right?
Yes. And the gift of the mushrooms in those situations, and this is the power of them for those who disbelieve what their own seeing and their own knowing, is the mushrooms open it up and blast you right past that. I mean, you don't have the option of saying no. I mean, you do, but it opens up those neural receptors and expands your consciousness, and you are fully there in mind, body, and spirit. So it kind of just dissolves the resistances, the fears, and all of those things that keep us separate from that believability. I mean, you were just in the experience, and it's so beautiful, you know, and it's one of the things. Go ahead.
There was some sort of buzzing that showed up right then. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
You talk about who mushrooms are for versus versus quantum healing.
Yes. So Donna had just said, can I talk about who mushroom journeys would be for versus just a straight quantum healing session? And, like anything, they're not for everyone. It is useful in the times for those who have, that a lot of those resistances or a lot of those fears where they just cannot allow themselves to access their own subconscious. We started calling it a permission slip because they would have, it was somehow like, well, the mushrooms are doing this. And so therefore I can go there. Or knowing that they were going to help them get past those, that they will choose that instead of a regular BQH session. And I've done a lot of sessions with clients who have had all of it, who have come and done BQH first, or they've done a mushroom session first. And I really prefer to do that. And that's where I started with my own guinea pigs, is I started with people who either had mushroom experience or BQH quantum healing experience, or clients that I had done one of those or the other before. Because the thing is you don't need one to have the other. We know this, right? And so once you ingest the mushrooms, and this is one of the things they told me, and science is catching up to this, and they're starting to be able to show this, that they sync up our neurology. And so they help recreate some of those neural synapses that we lose from when we had, 2 billion of them when we were 2. And once they are uptaken into our consciousness and into our neurology, they're always there. So it is much easier, just like when you have repeated quantum healing sessions, once you do a session with mushrooms, like you can tap back into it so much easier. And that's why mushrooms are not, you don't develop a tolerance, you develop a sensitivity. I mean, I can't even, I have my little friends in the room with me. Let's just show you guys here. These are the ones on my altar. Aren't they so cute? They wanted to come with me today. I just have them in the house. I did a BQH session with a client last week, straight BQH, no mushrooms. The mushrooms came into the session. She's like, the mushrooms are here. I'm like, yep. It's because, and they tell me this over and over, both of us, that's what they're here right now to help us do, because consciousness is already expanding. We are already raising our frequency, and they are here to assist us in that. And once we are at a certain level, there won't be such a big explosion of all of this interest in psychedelic therapy anymore. So they are our assistants for the time.
And it is a medicine.
Yeah.
To be used, not ongoing.
Yeah, Donna said that it is a medicine, not to be used ongoing. I mean, you can, but it's not like, and I caution people about this, and that's why I really encourage them to have a regular quantum healing session alongside, either before or after, so they can see, oh yeah, it's the same. I can still do this without the mushroom. And just like if you work with natural herbs of anything else, any other kind of medicine, it's for a certain time. It's to help your body in whatever capacity it is to come back online to be able to function in the way that it is designed to function. And then we don't need that support anymore. So it's been really fun.
This might be a good time to just pop in and say, this webinar and this information isn't to say, hey, let's everybody do this now. I mean, that is not what's happening here. As a matter of fact, I don't see myself at all stepping into this. And I see actually a question. Lori Mitchell says, I'm not one who even takes aspirin, so I'm hesitant. I'm right there with Lori.
Yes.
I go there so easily. I don't see much value for me. And as a matter of fact, I'm a little, I don't even like to take aspirin. I don't like to take anything because I react like that. And so again, this is, it's for specific instances that can help people overcome some certain things. But this isn't a, hey, everybody, let's do this all the time and change things and everybody gets some microdosing. That is not what we're doing here.
No, it's for that very specific calling. And to that, I actually just have a session scheduled next week or in a couple of weeks with a long-time plant medicine ayahuasqueria who has been working with plant medicines for 35, 40 years. And her guides led her to Dolores Cannon. They said, you need to find a way to assist people without medicine because medicine is not for everyone. So it's amazing, actually. She's had a lot of walk-ins and UFO abductees over her years that she's worked with in plant medicine circles. And because of those, her team led her to Dolores Cannon, and Dolores Cannon's work led her to you, Candace, and then led her to me.
Wow.
I just blew my mind. I was like, really? And oh, well, I kind of understand why they led you to directly me, because I have been working with plant medicine now for almost 7 years. And I tell people all the time, I am the biggest advocate for this is the bridge I want to build, is to understand that you don't need the medicine. Like, it can help in certain instances, but it's not the thing. And so there is a lot of hype around it right now where a lot of people are thinking it is the thing. And, you know, that's where the whole, what do they call it? Psychedelic tourism culture comes from. People are going and doing ayahuasca, you know, sessions every weekend in California. I mean, of course you're going to get that part of it too, but it is, as many ways that I can say it is designed, it is here only to help us right now. And that's why I want to talk about consciousness so much, because the mushrooms are their own consciousness, just like everything is. Everything has consciousness. So, and I ask them in every session that they are in, how is your consciousness working with the consciousness of this person to assist them? And every time they give the most profound answers that are specific to that person. And it has nothing to do with them, the mushroom. It has everything to do with how they're supporting that person in their life. Very much as we would ask the higher self questions, you know? So yeah, that's a really important point to make. And I'm, you know, assuming because all of you are here, you're very curious one way or another, or you have, you know, questions around it and cautions. And that's good too. Pay attention to that. You know, I've had a lot of invitations to other plant medicines, and it's just, for me, if it's not an immediate yes, then it's at least a no for now. Ayahuasca being one of them. That doesn't mean it helps. It helps a lot of other people a lot. It's not for me. I've had experiences with peyote, and I spent the entire night with it telling me it wasn't my medicine. I'm not your medicine. I'm not your medicine. And I'm like, I got it. 4 hours later, I'm just thank you for this lesson. So, and one of the reasons that I wanted to have this webinar and this talk, and I wanted to start offering guidance to others of how to fuse these two, and I'll get into this here in a minute, is because I've also seen that, you know, it's so up in the culture right now, and it's on this amazing path of legalization, and there's a lot of psychologists working with it who do not have the tools to actually navigate these sessions. And that can cause a setback, I would say. I was going to say harm, but I wouldn't really call it harm because the clay is not being formed. But they could get a lot more benefit out of it. If you have a trained facilitator, and I've just seen, because I've worked with all these different psychologists in these group sessions and these singular ones, where they're looking at me like I'm from another planet. How did you know to do that? How did you know just to speak into that? How did you know that they were a tree? How did you know that they were an animal? It's because of BQH. And learning to ask questions and be curious and believe whatever shows up. And so that's where this bridge, you know, Donna and I have talked so much about this, that's the bridge we really want to build, is for this sector of humanity that is called to work with these plant medicines right now. If we want to offer a way to help them train themselves to navigate these spaces for the benefit of their clients, just like we do in our quantum healing sessions. So that's really, I guess, the story of where it came into. In 2022, I was invited into this group of psychotherapists that was starting to do group overnight sessions with mushrooms. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I want to learn. And that's really where the idea was born of us doing a fusion training. And we will talk into that. Donna and I are going to be offering a class later this year called BQH Expansion, where we are taking the basis of BQH in the immersion classes, and then we're building into that all of the instruction and the guidance and the practice of adding in low dose psilocybin. And with the legalities, how they are, which I'll get into in a minute here, Colorado, it's fully legal. And so we are able to do this here. There's other states that it is, right now it's fully legal in Oregon and New Mexico and Colorado. And it will very soon be in a lot of other states. There's 31 states right now that have over 47, I think I just looked this morning, it was 48 different bills and initiatives in place and active right now for varying degrees of legalization. So it's very exciting what is happening in that realm. I wanted to go back though to the differences between plant-assisted quantum healing sessions and regular plant medicine journeys, because there is a difference, and I've talked a little bit about that, of using the BQH format with the low dose and why that I like to do it that way. The higher the dose you take, the more the client or you is going to go inward and be more nonverbal. Not that that's a bad thing, but as we know in BQH sessions and why we record them, that the more that they share with you, the more questions you can ask and the more they get. That's also true in the plant medicine circles. And so the different definitions of of dosing, I wanted to go over too, because there's a lot of question around that. When I say we use a 1 gram dose, that is not a microdose. A microdose is what's considered subperceptual, which means you won't perceive it. And that's what they use as a replacement for antidepressants, anti-anxiety, that type of a thing, because it uses the same neural receptors in the brain that the antidepressants do. So that's a different thing than what we're talking about. You can microdose and do a quantum healing journey. Absolutely. It is a very beneficial. I went through a 90-day protocol with a microdosing coach just to experience it because I hadn't. And for me personally, what I noticed with that was my nervous system calmed down a ton. I did not have the overwhelms that would wipe me out for a long time. And when I did get triggered about something, I'd have a reset and be able to ground in faster. And there's a ton of documentation out there on the benefits of microdosing.
And microdose is 1/10 of a gram.
So it's microdose is a 1/10 of a gram. Or sometimes people will do 0.2, 2/10 of a gram. That's technically what a microdose is. And then a full journey, which a lot of facilitators and a lot of these centers that will be opening in the states where it's fully legal, will be doing what they're going to call regular journeys.
Okay.
Buzzing.
Well, we're having some sort of electrical interference there. I don't know if you guys are experiencing anything, just a strange buzzing sound. I've never heard it before, ever. That's the second time it happened. Are you all, are the attendees, are you all hearing that buzzing? You didn't hear any buzzing. Wow.
It says that, yeah, it looks like they're saying nothing on your end. Okay, good.
So just me.
Yes.
Is that what I'm saying?
I heard just a teeny bit of it, Candace, but
Okay.
that was it on our end.
Wow. Okay. Like
Yeah.
an actual buzzer, like in some sort of basketball game, has now twice happened in this room.
Interesting. New frequency coming in there. The
Never
emotions
heard it
coming
before,
in.
ever. Never heard it before. Okay.
Interesting.
Please continue.
Okay. So a full journey or a regular journey dosage is typically 3.5 grams to 4 grams. That's the standard, I guess you could say. And then a macrodose, or what's called the hero's journey, is typically 5 grams or higher. And the interaction levels is often based on the dose, although just like BQH, there is no hard and fast rules. Anything can happen and anything does happen. I've had another BQH practitioner who wanted to experience the hero's journey. that did 5 grams, and she was in and through and out in 3 hours. We had conversation the whole time, and it was amazing. So they don't always go as deep inwards. But for people that are interested in working with plant medicine, I usually suggest that they start with 1 to 2 grams, because less is more. It really is. And it's not like there isn't time and place for higher dose journeys. I resisted having my own. I had my guides and higher self tell me for over 2 years, I argued with them, that I needed to do the 5 gram or higher hero journey. And I was like, no, I don't. I connect so easily. I'm in the field all the time. You know, I had all my reasons and all my resistances. Well, at the same time, during those years, which was just 2022, 2023, I had all these people coming to me that would get into the session, and it didn't matter if it was a regular BQH session or one with mushrooms added, who would just grieve for 5 hours, and they would feel 1,000 pounds lighter. I mean, it was profound sessions, but a lot of grief. And so finally, after a couple of years of resisting my own macro dose, my team was like, look, the reason you need to do it has nothing to do with how well you connect. It's because that's how you're going to go in and through all of the fears that you have around working with the medicine. And you also need to understand at a deeper level the space that you're holding for your clients. And because I had all the reasons, right? Like, I'm so sensitive, I can feel 1 gram fully and have a whole journey. Like, I'm going to be in there too long. I'm going to get lost completely in there. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to have a psychotic break. Like, I had a whole list of fear stories. And so when I finally did my own hero's dose journey, it's a long story, so I won't get into the whole thing. But basically what they did is they took me into the morphic field of grief for all of humanity, the collective consciousness. And it was profound because they showed me so much of the experience my clients were having from the inside. And not only that, but my own specific memories, other lifetimes, and how when I'm holding that space and when I'm grieving, I am doing this for everybody, just like they are. And so that in and of itself was a huge shift in me and in the space that I held for people, because I had that deep felt experience. So not saying there's never a reason to do it, just really sit with it and choose wisely and pay attention if you have fears that come up around this stuff, because that has also been one of my huge teachers. There's a lot more to go into that, around dosage, format, set and setting, all these things. And that is also why we're going to be offering a class, because it is important to have some guidance around that, I would say. I've also heard other people talk about, I had, not a great experience with mushrooms. And often it was because were in a safe place and they didn't have somebody holding the space for them in the way they needed, and they took too much. And I've had clients that have gone over my guidance of the amount, because I like to muscle test for that, because I do that, and have come back and said, yeah, you were right. I should have taken 3 grams instead of 5. But it was a learning. So we learned through everything.
I was just thinking if you would work through their questions.
Yeah. So I'll answer some of the questions now. The first one was,
While
yeah.
you're looking through them, allow me to just mention this global concern or concept. BQH is looking to acknowledge the different ways that humanity is expanding their consciousness and the different avenues that happens. And because our very definition is flexibility, this is why we're talking about this, right? So what I want to make very clear is this is an avenue that we are exploring, but we hope to explore even more avenues. Okay. There's a lot going on out there. There's a lot that's bubbling up in humanity. This is a big year. The next couple of years are big years, but this is just one way. And I've been talking with D&D here about this for, couple of years now. And yes, it will be supported with the foundation of BQH. So it isn't like you go to this class and learn this. No, no, no. You start with BQH, and this is one of the way you will be focusing in a kind of a new arm of it, or for people who are interested in that. And there will be other of those things coming right now. And these ladies are the experts in that. Okay. So I just wanted to make that clear. And please now look at your questions. And
Yeah, well, no, that's perfect, Candace, because that goes right into another point I wanted to make. And I see this as one of the questions, that the prerequisite to come to the BQH expansion class, the arm that we're creating, the arm, where's my arm? is the BQH online course. And if I had it all my way, I would also have people come to immersion first, because having attended and supported and assisted now at a lot of immersions, I think I've been to 12 of them now. It's been a lot since 2020, 2 or 3 years. Gosh, I just learned so much. That's why I keep coming back, and every class is different. And the practice. I mean, this is in my bones at this point. And that's why I'm so comfortable working with plant medicines. And that's why, and we'll get into a little bit of some of the other ones, because other ones have sought me out too. So yes, I am working with other ones as well, a little bit. But my foundation is BQH. And I still do equally as many BQH sessions as I do any plant assisted sessions. And I guide people back to it all the time. In fact, one of the facilitators of the psychology group that I helped do the group journeys with, I got to facilitate her very first mushroom session ever. And within a year, she came and had her first BQH session ever. And it gave her more and connected all of the stuff she experienced from her mushroom journey in just her BQH journey. So that, that's exactly what you say, Candace. That's the bridge I want to build, is to turn people to BQH, because that's the only reason I'm able to do what I do in these different realms that I do. So what are you pointing at? Just the mushrooms, the questions. Yeah. So yeah, 100% on that. And yes, do the BQH online course first. Practice a lot, come to immersion. It will ground you in it. And then the expansion class will only add to it. Okay. So what types of mushrooms? There's thousands of strains. And that's a great question, because I have found that everything is frequency based. And so I started, when the mushrooms started finding me, and this is a strange thing that happened too, is all of a sudden they started showing up at my house. And all of a sudden I have 10 different strains. And I'm like, what's going on here? And so I talked to one of my curandera shamanic practitioner friends who's been working with medicine for a long time. And she's like, yeah, that's what happens. They're all friends. They like to hang out. I was like, oh. So I started to experiment. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start testing for the frequency of these mushrooms and the frequency of people's intentions for the sessions. And so I will match up the type of mushroom with their intention for the session or why they're there. For example, Golden Teacher is a very standard, one of the most common strains of mushrooms you will find. You'll find that before you'll find just about anything else. It is very gentle. It is just like its name, a Golden Teacher. And it's very wise and it's very supportive. So I will use that as a baseline, especially if someone's coming in and experiencing it for the very first time. There's another one called Penis Envy, which is a silly name, but it looks like a penis, and so therefore it got its name. And it is a heavy hitter. Like, it will take you down into the depths. So I will not use that one unless someone is really seeking to deal with their deep trauma or really heavy, dark stuff. Perfect for that. So there's a lot of them, and it's been really interesting to learn more about them. And I will microdose with all the strains that come to me first, and then I'll have my experience and I will research, because you can find information about all the different strains out there. It's very important too, and again, too much to get into here, but the sourcing of them, who grows them, what's the environment about, because they are high frequency beings and they are also entrained to their environment, just like everything else is. So that could be a whole talk in and of itself. Myrna, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so next, how about LSD, MDMA, or other substances? Could they be used? Yes, and I've been attending several psychedelic conferences every year to educate myself and also promote BQH as another option for all these other substances. So it's really fun. I've got had a lot of great conversations and work with practitioners and users of all these other psychedelics. And again, it's the same thing. LSD is gaining traction with microdosing as a full dose. As you may or may not know, you'll be in there for 12 to 15 hours. So, it, depends on what you want your experience to be. MDMA is getting a lot of traction, and I have been training with another practitioner for over a year now to work with that. And so I could talk a lot more about that. And again, please email me with anything I don't cover here because I have way more information than we'll have time to go through here. MDMA is very good to work with childhood trauma, sexual trauma, PTSD. It's very, very gentle. It is similar to psilocybin, except for it is lab created. The basis of it is the sassafras root. It has also told me that it does come from another planet. That's a whole nother thing that just came in. I did this meditation 2 weeks ago. And all of these plant medicines are connected to different planets, and they are here for different reasons. So that could be a whole nother conversation. The biggest caution I would say is I would not suggest just to go out and try it or just say, yeah, come in and let's do this. Get yourself some education. There's some really good books out there. There's some really good trainers out there. Jonathan Robinson wrote a book called Ecstasy as Medicine. That's a really good place to start if you're interested in working with MDMA. I could recommend some for just about all the different plant medicines. So that's a quick overview. Where do you get the mushrooms from? Well, that's the thing is a lot of people are starting to grow their own. If you are very interested in getting into that work, there is a lot of guidance out there for that. And you have to have the right setup. And you can order spores. That there's just so much. Again, I would say know your grower. If you're not doing it yourself, go visit the facility. How are they doing that? What is their intentions? How are they treating the mushrooms? Their little friends in their house. I wouldn't just go buy it through whoever so-and-so on the black market because, again, everything carries a frequency, and especially the plant medicines, which is also one of my cautions with LSD. Because that is a whole world. And yes, it is tried and true. Stanislav Grof, who is the grandfather of psychedelics, has some great books about it. He also created breathwork when they banned all of these things in the 70s because it accesses the same thing, the same neural receptors, the quantum field, the same thing BQH does. So all of these can be in conjunction with BQH, but again, BQH is the basis in the container.
You don't need it.
And you don't need them. But they're also up in our consciousness for a reason, like they're here. What if your long distance client has a bad reaction to the mushrooms? I would never do a session long distance, ever, ever, ever. It is so physical. Let me tell you, so physical. I mean, you're going to go through a box of Kleenex and a roll of paper towels, and you need a purge bucket there. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can. You need a bathroom close. There's just no. That is, to me, a hard no. I would never do a session with any kind of plant medicine virtually. I just wouldn't. Let's see. Will the class be offered online? No, it'll be in person because, again, it's very physical. And you need to be physically present. It'd be kind of like doing a massage class online. How are you going to work on each other? So it'll be immersion style in the way of we will meet, we will all be together, we will do trades without the plant medicine first. And then the last trade of the class will be with the optional added in, which you don't need to. If you want to come to the class, but you don't want to actually ingest it, but you want to learn how to practitioner, absolutely can do that.
I've got a question there.
Yeah.
How do you've more than once as you've been speaking, talked about how the mushrooms have said, you've got to know this so that you'll be a better practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it that you square that with what you've just said, learn how to be a practitioner and not take it?
Mm-hmm.
Connect to them in lots of ways without ingesting.
Yeah. Donna said you can connect to them in a lot of ways without ingesting it. Just like I was talking about having them in my house. You're connected with them. You can sit and meditate with them. You can hold them. You can microdose with them.
Do some regular quantum healing sessions and talk to
She said you can do some regular quantum healing sessions and talk to them. That was for me personally, that they had said, I've got to have this experience myself before I work with other people. So, that might not be your story. You may be drawn to it, but know that no, it's not for me to take inside. That's just been my personal path. So, in Canada, there is some legislation happening, and I actually have some, let me see, resource websites for you guys where you can get a ton of your questions answered. You can go to psychedelicalpha.com. That's PSYCHEDELICALPHA.com. And that's a really cool one. They have a tracker of all the states and all of the things that are happening and current in each state. So ton of information there. I'm not sure that Canada's on there. We'll have to look. I don't remember that it was. There's also billtrack50.com, and that's just, BILLTRACK, the number 50.com. And this you can put in anything you want to see what kind of bills are active right now. So I put in psychedelics, I put in plant medicine, bills, and it pulled up. That's where I saw that there was 48 different bills active right now going through legislation in the different 31 cities. So let's see. That top. Oh yeah. What does it mean to see and move through sacred geometry in a plant-induced high? That could mean a lot of things. It's usually individual to the person. I've had that experience myself in the big journey I told you guys about. They took me through all the geometries of light and high frequencies and all the geometries of the low and dark frequencies. So, and that it can mean so many things. And again, if you're doing a fusion session and they're seeing that, ask. Because that's the other thing that happens with these is, as we know from Quantum Connect, the higher self is always present. It's all just right there. And I want to say that too, is the Quantum Connect training. I use that all the time in the plant medicine journeys, all the time, because it isn't like one of the things that's different or can be from a regular BQH session is as soon as those mushrooms uptake, the higher self's there. The consciousness is fully connected and open and expanded, and you're in the quantum field. You're in the subconscious. So you can start asking questions right there, and they will take you right to it. They're very literal. So that is one of the ways that it bypasses everybody's resistances and fears is once they uptake, it's like, oh, here we are. And not just here we are, the mushrooms, here we are, the higher self, the team, all of that. Let's see, do you charge differently for fusion sessions? Do you supply the mushrooms? Yeah, so that would go into the legalities. And yes, I do charge differently for that because you don't know how long you're going to be with them. I'm usually with the client 5 to 10 hours. Also, I add in a pre-session where we do talking and set up the session, and I do 1 to 2 post-integration sessions. So that makes it a little bit different than a regular BQH session. Let's see. You guys have so many great questions here. Answer 10. Oh yeah. I had one client on mushrooms I didn't know before we began, and he was all over the place. His session was less useful to him than the first BQH only session we did. Yeah. And so this, I'm not surprised. This is another thing that I've seen happen. And I've also had clients that I've done a BQH for, and then they go off and have their own mushroom session, unguided, unsupported. And they were like, it was a disaster. I was all over the place. I had nothing to help me hold the space. I've also had clients who've done a psilocybin assisted BQH session with me and then one without and said it's a huge difference. So I think that it needs to be that's why I think that there needs to be more support around the mushroom sessions that happen. And that includes the pre-talk, letting them know all that can happen. And just like we do in BQH, when you go in and you set up the session and you get their questions and you get their intention, I do water alchemy on the intention, just like we do in BQH. I give them some heads up of like, hey, I can't see what you're seeing. The more you share with me, the more I can support you. If you need to go internal, just let me know when there's something that you need on the recording or you need help with. So I give a lot of cues when we go into these sessions so they know that they're supported. And again, that goes into facilitator training when you're adding in these plants. And that's why it's so important, because they are all over the place unless they have somebody there to help them. And I've had that experience. I've also learned through trial and error of having friends sit with me who were not trained BQH practitioners. They didn't know what to ask. They didn't know what to do. My field was so huge and the mushrooms added to it that I pulled them into my journey, literally. And my one friend was like, I have to go outside and cry now. I'm like, okay, note to self. Only let another practitioner hold space for you. Got it. Yeah.
Well, and I think she was saying, I think she was saying that she was doing a BQH session with a person on mushrooms and he was all over the place. And that I would just say to that, lesson learned for him.
Yeah.
And for you, because that happens.
Yep. It does. All right. What kind of healings have you seen with your clients combining BQH with mushrooms? Oh, that's such a great question. I love it. I had pulled, Candace had actually asked before about, some experiences and quotes. And so I brought those because it's interesting. It's similar to a regular BQH session, and it's sometimes more physically powerful for them. I had one client who had lost her smell completely from having COVID years before. And during her 1 gram psilocybin assisted BQH session, they rewired her olfactory system. And it was amazing. And she could see it happening. And this often happens in their bodies. I've had other times where they've rewired the brain. And I'll go into another story in a minute here. But she saw this happening and she came out of the session and she was at my house. And I do Chemex coffee and I make two days worth. So I always have like a day's worth sitting there on the counter, right? It had been there the whole time. She comes out of her session and the first thing she says is like, are you brewing coffee? I'm like, no, but I've had it on there since you got here this morning. And that was the first thing that she could smell and was like, amazing.
That's so wonderful. Of all the things to first smell after losing your sense of smell for years, coffee should probably be right up there.
Yeah. Well, you know what it made me think of is when you go to somewhere and do like tastings or smellings of things, they have you smell coffee in between because it resets your
Yeah.
system.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So now I say my coffee is a plant medicine and it assists me every morning.
I'm not to go too far afield, but there's research coming through about it helping keeping the connections in our brain for the lessening of Alzheimer's and dementia. Coffee drinkers and tea drinkers too. So there's something, it's caffeine, but it's also some of the other components in it. They're actually finding more evidence that it keeps your synapses in your brain healthy. So yeah, what a good connection.
Yeah. And to that point, Donna and I have done research sessions asking the mushrooms things because we're curious about, are there other plant medicines, non-psychoactive, that are here to assist us? And they're like, absolutely. That's why you're drawn to so many teas. And since then, Donna has been getting all kinds of just, herbs and combining and making her own teas and really diving into learning more about all of that. And they said that it's the same thing. Like when we use chamomile for something, or we use white willow bark for pain, or we use milk thistle to support our liver, and we can do it more consciously. That's the whole point, is raising our consciousness and connecting it. So when we use any of these herbs, psychoactive, non-psychoactive, which was a lot more of those, consciously connecting with how they're helping us, it increases the efficacy of it.
I'd have to jump in and tell you, I'm already planning on getting like a great big rosemary something for the immersion and making like some halos, some rosemary halos. It was like one of the ideas I had as I was walking around the house here today. This is going to be a really great class.
It is. I want to tell one more story about a client's personal experience. I had this gal come in who manages this big IT department at this big corporation in Denver. And she very left brain. And she was like, I want to get more into my feelings and, just balance this out and all the other stuff she had come for. Well, in her session, she connected with her spirit guide, which was an octopus. And she had this whole experience with this octopus, right? Well, then they said, she's like, oh my God, I see all this green light in my brain. And the mushrooms helped her bring in the DNA from her octopus spirit guide and fused it into her DNA and into her brain neural synapses to bring her right side, her emotional side, her creative side back online. And as soon as they did that, she's like, oh my God, I'm bigger than this room. I'm bigger than this building. Like she expanded to this ginormous human. And before they then brought it all back down inside of her. And she could just describe it all viscerally the whole way. It was so cool. And again, that can happen in a regular BQH session.
This even connects. We were talking about the Veda Austin webinar. I mean, I'm only 30 minutes into this, marathon of a webinar, but Pam Gregory was talking about how so many other animals have on the planet, and I'm sure octopus are one of them. They have the 24 chromosomes, and somehow humans are missing. We have the 23. And anyway, when you're saying that, I'm thinking that was some of the fusion that was probably happening there was with that. And of course, we all know that octopuses are from other planets.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah, that is so cool. I just
and so much of that has to do with water too. I mean, the connections, they're just nonstop, aren't they?
They are. Yep, it is. It's just incredible. Okay, I could tell more stories, but we're already almost an hour and a half into this, and we don't want to keep you guys all day. Was your hero's journey facilitated? Yes, it was. And that was one of my learning points of be careful who you have facilitate for you, because she is an amazing therapist and she has helped me so much for so many years, and I'm so grateful. But she was new to the field of the mushrooms. And so not only that, but I took a lot because they told me to. And my field's very big and very powerful that it overwhelmed her. And so that was a huge learning for me. And it was even more, this is kind of a personal, vulnerable thing, but it was a conceit I had of like, oh, only certain people could help me. And I was not allowing someone who was actually trained, and had a lot of experience asking questions in PQH, like Candace or my sister, to sit and hold that space for me. So I was humbled in many, many, many ways through all of that experience. And it was still very good and powerful for me. And that was part of it. And that was a huge learning. The question asking, I can't stress it enough, is so important. And the willingness to meet them where they are, whether it's just to hold their hand or hug them or hold them or, all of that. Okay. Are you growing your own or outsourcing your medicine? So right now I have several people that are growing for me. I would love to grow my own. I just don't have the right situation for that right now. I live in a tiny house in the woods, which is amazing, but you need a warm place, a dark place, a sterile place. I interact with the mushrooms when they're growing with me through the friends that are growing it. Let's just say that. So we already are making friends with each other. But yeah, that's the crew. Okay. Are you only offering one-on-one sessions? Can you facilitate couples and small groups? Yes and yes. I do offer all of those. I've worked with groups, I've worked with couples and one-on-one. They all have a lot of value. And gosh, what to say about that in a short amount of time? Yes, they all are very powerful. And the group format, you would need more than one practitioner if you have more than 2 people. If you have I mean, it's ideally you have one-to-one, you have enough facilitators or practitioners there for every person participating in the group, because they're all having their own experience. But just like a group regression or a group quantum healing, there is connections, and it's so powerful. The field is amplified by every person that comes in. I have a ton of stories around that from all the group facilitation I've done, of just the incredible power of group anything, right? Group breath work. So absolutely. And the same with couples. I mean, man, I've experienced some couple sessions, have facilitated some, and they're very, very connecting, growing, illuminating, powerful in a lot of ways. I would suggest that you have 2 different rooms that they can be in if they need to, not the same room. If you're going to have more than 2 people, you need to have at least 2 bathrooms. Very important. A lot of people go to the bathroom a lot. And the bathroom is a portal. I will say that. I'll be surprised. I mean, I'm telling you, I just did a 1 gram BQH for a BQH practitioner who may be on here right now the other day. And the bathroom is a portal. She went into Egypt and one of her spirit guides came in through it. And a lot of magic happens with our almighty throne of releasing and purging. Candace has stories she tells in the immersion class around that. Also,
I cannot tell you how much the connections just keep coming and coming. Yesterday, Emoto's coming through. I only have part of that channeling, but some of this actually, it throws back to Dolores. I know this is a tease, but I've got to say this now because you just finished saying this about the bathroom. There's a question that people would ask Dolores that she would not answer. She would never answer this question. And the question was, Dolores, do you do something particular just for yourself to connect before you do a session? I think I saw her get asked this question twice. But I really remember the one time that she got asked this question. And first of all, she wasn't ready for it. She wasn't, it wasn't the kind of question that had come up to her to answer it. I think the second time she was ready, but she couldn't lie or she couldn't say no. So the answer was, yes, she does. And then in the very next breath, without saying anything, she said, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Now, remember, I was there for her when she did these demos and when she did all of this stuff. And I also I would walk with her to the bathroom for a lot of these breaks or prep right before the session. Some of that was, I was kind of like her bouncer. I was just kind of like, leave her alone now, man. Just go on to the toilet, so there was a little of that going on. But there is stuff happening with Dolores in there on the throat with the water. I am telling you. And then there's connections. It seems sort of humorous right now, but it all has to do with the water. Everything that we're just naturally doing with water alchemy, the connection with the water and BQH and the open minds that we are bringing to this, and that we look around and that we are able to. And I know my husband maybe is on this call. He always says, "How do you connect those 2 things? They're not connected." And I'm like, everything's connected. Absolutely everything. If you can make a connection from 2 seemingly absolutely not connected things, you're actually expanding your consciousness. That's what we're here to do. What is the connection between that and that thing? And when you give your imagination opportunity to answer that question, that's when your growth happens. And if there's any other questions for anything else, do get them in now because, we've been here a while and we may be wrapping it up here pretty.
Yes. And there's just so much to talk about that.
Yes. I don't get all excited.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is it's all connected.
Yes.
And so our curiosity and being willing to ask questions about literally anything that shows up and just feeling that connection, like you felt it, Candace, and you're like, there's a connection. So, okay, Kathleen. Oh, hi, Kathleen. Says, how will we find your class offering? So we have right now the first class dates we have already that we're going to offer.
Have them emailed again.
Yeah, and email us at ddadair adair2@gmail.com to get on the list. And we will send out the announcement on it. But the first one is going to be October 13th through the 17th in Colorado at Donna's beautiful home up here in the mountains in Divide, Colorado. We will have 8 slots.
Yeah.
And we have 2 people signed up right now. So there's 6 left at this point. And yeah, just email us at ddadair2 to get on the list, and we will send out the registration and the questions and all of them at. And then we already spoke about the prerequisite as the BQH online course. We highly recommend Immersion. If you haven't been to it yet and you are interested in doing this training, come to Immersion in May. We'll be there too. You can pick our brains there. Get a little preview.
And the reason to email us is at this point, because this is also somewhat of a sensitive topic, because it's not legal federally and it's not legal in all states. So we really are starting out with having the personal connection of you emailing us, and then we will send the registration link and all the information instead of putting it out on the World Wide Web right now. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And those dates again are October 13th through the 17th. So it'll be similar format to Immersion, a meet and greet on October the 13th, and then all day 14, 15, 16, and 17. And we will have several trades, with the last trade being the optional low dose psilocybin add-in.
And I'm probably going to join in some way, either live or via Zoom for part of this, because it is part of BQH, and I would not miss it for the world.
So you still get Candace too, which is amazing. She will be teaching key points of it, as only she can do. If a class without Candace's stories, I don't know what it would be. That's like
You know what we haven't talked about Immersion just yet is about the food, though, how amazing the food is. And the fun part is, I mean, it's sad for me to say it this way, but since I don't have Daddy right now and my kitchen is my own again, I plan on doing some of the food contributions for sure for coming up. Yes, so we need to talk about, make sure we talk about that. I want to make sure we plan. But yeah, so and if anybody has any more questions, put them in now. Otherwise, it looks like we may be wrapping this up today. Yes, we will be putting, we'll need to talk about it a little bit because, yes, once again, about it being sensitive, I don't know how much of this we will put on YouTube or pieces of it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay that you can. There's no issues with that at all. I mean, there is endless things about plant medicine out there right now. So it's designated, and I did say this and then I didn't follow through with it, of how and why it's important that it's designated as a breakthrough therapy is because of the verified treatments over and over and over for the way it's helping depression and anxiety and substance abuse disorders, end-of-life care, PTSD, all of that. And that's why all of the states are jumping on board with it. And they have, I think it was 47 states have reduced, hold on, I got to find this because it was important terminology. As far as they have reduced the enforcement. Oh yeah, they've placed psilocybin on the lowest level priority of prosecution by law enforcement, which means that it's basically a non-issue. Even if it's illegal, they don't chase it down. And that cannabis wasn't even given that designation before it became legal.
Diana, I never heard about end of life. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm. That's where it started.
I just went through that with Daddy, and we did. My brother my brother, he broke his leg or messed up his knee skiing, and he was on morphine a little bit. He called it vitamin M. But yeah, so Daddy had some vitamin M. I had no idea mushrooms were used in that way.
That's
wow, would I like to know more about that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It is. It because it takes away the death fear. It takes away a lot of their pain and suffering, which is, the worst thing about death is the pain and suffering. I mean, once they die, then there's none of that's present. And so mushrooms in a way help with, it's almost that die before you die, where you open to the big picture. It's like people have NDEs, right? And they come back and they're like, have a new zest for life and everything has changed for them. The mushroom consciousness is helping us with that too. And I just wanted to share, they tell me over and over, because I always talk to them during sessions, since now that I know that I can. I talk to them without sessions. They're always with me. I mean, they tell me over and over that they are here to help us sync up our consciousness and our neurology so we can access those expanded states and interact with them as humanity as a whole is at that point. And so they are our assistants to help us remember, and then we won't need them anymore. Thank you all so much for coming and for your great questions. And email me if you have any other questions or I can support you in any way. I want to get more practitioners out there for this because it is so up in the collective, and there needs to be a bridge built. And I think BQH is that bridge. I really do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you, Donna. Thank you to all of you who've shown up, and even those of you who are watching this later, and all of you who showed up or registered and couldn't quite make it, but expressed your interest. Remember that the survey is going to pop up really quick, and it's just going to ask you, if we were to do another webinar, is there a topic that you think needs more fleshing out, things that need more covering, something that is changing for you, just anything at all? What would you like to see a future webinar about? If you wouldn't mind, that would be very helpful to us. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. Hope to see you.
Come see us on quantumhealers.com. All right. Bye now for everybody.